One. Hey, everybody. Hello, Disc Golf Nation in Central North Carolina, wherever you happen to be. That's where I happen to be. And that's where I know these two wonderful gentlemen from, Mike Inscho, Ben Hopwood. You may know them from playing out on a course. You may know them from tournaments. But you may also know them for their great artistic abilities and what they've been doing. And they'll each give their bios, but what they've been doing with disc art, which for a lot of us is just as collectible, if not more collectible as some other things. I see both of you have discs on the wall behind you. If you could see up above me, I have a whole tray of discs, on this floating ceiling. The medium and the method is weird, right? It's nobody thinks that is the place for art, but both of you have created some amazing stuff, not just one-offs and specialty things, but also for MVP, working with Discraft, working with local clubs to put out special discs. So I'm going to just start with Ben, since he happens to be on top in my view, and say, Ben, welcome to whatever we're gonna call this, but let's talk about disc art. Who are you? Where you live? What are you doing? How'd you get into disc art?
Okay, I'm Ben Hopwood. I used to live in Garner, North Carolina, and got introduced to the sport by a friend from high school, but I didn't get introduced till I was almost 40 years old. So I learned to play at Cedar Hills, and immediately saw, like after my first round, I played with his discs, and then I went to immediately to play it again, and so I got to buy my own. And I saw all the different art that was on some of these stamps, which was destroyers, wraiths, a wolf I picked up. Like I bought I bought some good ones, but I bought some bad discs, like everybody does. But
as we all
but the
have.
art drew me in. The art drew me in. So it was like, okay, these are cool. And then I found out that there was already a bunch of custom stuff online. I'd never seen a tournament disc, so I had no idea. And immediately started looking into how do I get into that part of it. And I did my first stamp in, I'm going to guess early 2014, the end of 2013, when I just started for Bull City Disc Club and designed their club logo. That was my first stamp. So,
thank you.
And I think I'm like 160 stamps in since then.
It's amazing.
That is amazing. And I remember that Bull City Club logo. I think I actually have, there's a couple discs I have from that. Some that I throw, I have a box of tournament stamped discs that I just don't throw because I don't want to lose it, because it's kind of a memory of that. But you said that was your first stamp. Do you remember what disc those were on? How was that process?
Sure, that was Innova. It was a pretty simple design, because it was they wanted it as a club logo too. So it was basically, just it's an outline of a bull's head with the skyline popping across the top, and then pretty simple text. So it wasn't a difficult stamp to get printed. It fit on the disc real well. I was just learning, so we didn't make it too complicated anyway. But Innova did it, and the first disc I ever got with my stamp on it was a Glow Gazelle that was too light to throw, but it had a copper stamp, and I was like, this is perfect, because I don't want to throw it anyway. I just want to save it. You know what I mean? So if I threw that thing, it would probably hook around me and go backwards. The thing is so flippy. But yeah, it was great. So I got a really cool copper stamp. And I didn't see a copper stamp yet. I didn't see a lot of metallics and played again. It was basically just the white solid stamps, and it was the first thing. And then I was hooked. Like immediately hooked on. I got to do more of this.
So was that done as that CFR? What's it called? The tournament, the Glow deal, was that the method?
Well, they weren't all Glow. Most of them were
okay.
just stocks, but they had a couple Glow ones. So I guess Innova just hooked them up with a few for special things, for some CTPs and surprises and stuff. They used to be real good about that. You would always get a few in your pack, but most of it was destroyers and putters. And I think there was maybe some T-birds in there. And I guess that was just like, hey, that was popular then. And that's what people got. They would just order based on what people really wanted. Now, I think everybody's got enough destroyers. So don't need any more of those.
So Ben came to it by being introduced to the sport first, looking and shopping for your first bag. That's when you discovered some, just stamps and wanted to figure out how to start doing those and just jumped into it. Mike, is that a similar story to your move, or what have you?
Very, very similar. Actually, me and Ben probably started around the same time, which is wild. I didn't know that you started around 2013, 14-ish.
Yep.
I started out, 2014. I was working in the concept art industry. I was with a local company in Cary producing Fallen Earth. It's a MMORPG.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it's still around. I think they finally closed the servers like last year. But anyways, and I got introduced into disc golf probably a few years before that. I was in art school, and art school friend lived right behind Kentwood, Kent Rock, like right up on the hill. And it was like she invited us over, and I thought disc golf was just like this little pitch and putt in the backyard, like you hit a ball or something. I didn't know. And then Kentwood blew my mind. I was like, this is disc golf. This is awesome. And I was looked at the disc art, and I was like, man, this is so cool. Like, and then I finally got a first opportunity in 2014 for MVP. I was asked to be their first artist series artist, and I've never done a stamp before. Like, it was wild. So got to do that for Axiom. It was a clash. It was a soul spinner clash. It was that orange flight plate, white rim with this crazy little sun thing on it. And from there, it just kind of exploded. I think my next stamp after that was J-Pro had me do a grade 8 stamp. And it was a clashing octopus that formed it, 8, which was, after that, it just was downhill from there.
Awesome. And almost everybody listening may know the grade 8. The grade 8 courses in around Raleigh, North Carolina starts in Zebulon, ends at Swinging DB. Single day. It just happened this past weekend. Something that is for younger or better shaped men than I. But I definitely support it. This year I made a Mando sign for Zebulon for number 2.
Good job on that, man.
You saw the Mandalorian.
I did.
I thought it was funny. So I'm not as artistic, but I could be a little bit creative. So that was my addition. So Mike, art school, working with gaming, game animation, game art. Ben, what was your artistic background prior to starting disc art?
Oh yeah, I went to junior college at a high school and just studied fine art for a couple of years, and then I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for a little while and studied sequential art. I was going to do comic books, and then I went back to Jersey where I grew up and got a degree in illustration and ad design, and that's when I started using a computer. So that was really what changed my life, was going back to New Jersey and like getting forced back into like, I got to do something that's going to get me work instead of following this crazy dream of doing comic books with no guarantee.
Dude, Savannah's such a good college though, man.
Savannah was great. I only got to go there for a full year because my dad got sick, but I love the experience. It's the greatest art school. It's fantastic. Great place to live.
Yep.
So, I didn't get to fulfill that part of it, but I learned computers after that. And I was so happy that I did, because I wouldn't be doing any of this. I do this full time now. I'm just doing freelance. 99% of it is disc art. So it's really fun.
It's amazing.
That's amazing that you could take any sort of passion and turn it into a career, but please don't give up on the comic book idea, because I personally have some ideas for a disc golf related comic book.
I got to do, it hasn't been released, but maybe this will put some pressure on Chuck. I designed a shirt for DG1. It's a sublimated shirt, and the whole back of the shirt is a comic book page of disc golf. And it's up to Chuck to put it out. It's already done. He's already got it approved. So it was right at COVID. Like, as soon as COVID started, it killed the project. And hopefully it comes back. I'm really excited if it does. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but when I saw the mock-up, I really liked it. I was like, this is cool. Something different.
Sweet.
And it was. And Chuck's been on me about comic book and disc golf stuff for a long time. And I just, it's very time consuming. You got to come up with some serious money for someone to be able to actually do it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to pay per page, and it can get pricey to do a comic. It's not like a disc where like, hey man, I can do them in a day if I have to.
Mm-hmm.
Which not everybody does, but
you know,
I did one today.
as you guys know, I also co-own Fayetteville Comic-Con, and that's one of the reasons why I want to ultimately blend my love for disc art and comic books together. So at some point, Ben, we're going to find some funding, and we're going to put something cool together. Mike, we're going to turn it into a multiplayer online game. We're going to fix.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we can actually develop the right online disc golf game, because none of these I try make me very happy.
Yeah.
Keith,
So,
do you know John Malin, the artist John Malin, who used to do like Cable and Thunderbolts and stuff for Marvel?
Yeah.
Now he does his own book on. He plays disc golf.
As I'm sure
he's a Michigan guy.
As I'm sure we all see that there are disc golfers in almost every profession. We saw some professional baseball players pick up disc golf during this COVID off season. I don't know if you saw some of those. I think he was with the St. Louis. I can't remember what team it was, but this guy had a wicked sidearm, having just picked it up.
Oh yeah, that guy's from Cincinnati Reds. Like he's ridiculous.
It was. So most of your disc work, when you're doing it for MVP, or you're doing it for a tour, you're doing it for stamps, and you're doing what you call the stamp, you're doing it mostly now on computer aided design. What programs are you doing that line art that in, and did you transfer that to do coloring? What's the process there? Mike, why don't you tell me your next stamp? Just what's the program if people are looking for something good to start out in?
You can usually start out with a sketch pad and pens. I know a lot of artists that are efficient, really efficient, that can just pencil, do some final line and scan it in, and then just add your stuff in Illustrator. To start, people starting out, you could easily use your iPad, and you can use a program called Procreate. They have several apps out there for iPad users, and I've seen a lot of stamp artists currently right now using the iPad Pro, and just simply doing most of their work on the iPad Pro and just zipping it over to Photoshop or Illustrator for final tweaking.
Now, Ben, is that what you're using to do some of your art? I know that you're calling in on your iPad, but are you going to a handheld, or are you doing most things a little larger?
My iPad's a little older and stuff. I'm looking forward to going to iPad Pro and to use their pencil and stuff. Like I want to use that. But no, I'm using a 2008 iMac and a really old version of Illustrator. And I do all my pencil sketches. I don't always ink things. Sometimes I'll just do everything in Illustrator, and I draw everything with a mouse.
Wow, that's impressive, dude.
It's archaic. It's not impressive. It's stupid. You gotta get up with the technology. But I have a very small Wacom, and it's not very great. Mine's even like a mini. Like right. It's really hard to. Yeah, I have a hard time not being able to look down and draw. Like you have to look up at the screen while you're drawing, and I just never got that. So yeah, I mean, if you look at guys like you watch videos of like Skeet drawing on this thing, and I'm like, man, if I had that technology, I could go even faster, and I do these things in a day. So like, I'd love to get a little quicker, and you make more money the faster you go.
For sure.
That's the whole point.
Well,
you can't take 2 weeks to do a stamp. They don't pay that good. Yeah.
Clients don't pay that good. You got to be fast, got to be efficient.
Yeah.
That's why I see a lot of people just doing line work and inking it, scanning it in, like
Les White. Les White inks all his great images that you've seen for Les White, and Les has done some really iconic stuff. All the characters are pen and ink. I mean, he just cleans them up a little bit in Photoshop and does his little frames, but that's all pen and ink work. I got some on the wall. Like, I mean, it's amazing. It's so clean.
Yeah.
And he's a comic book guy, like from back in the day. That's what he was trying to do. Mm-hmm. So it's all about pen and ink.
So before we talk about just some of the one-offs and the Sharpie work and just that pure art piece, but when you're doing something for a larger production run, Ben, I know that you held up earlier a disc you just finished for Discraft, I think.
I got a whole pile here, man. I got all kinds of cool stuff.
And so the first question I want to ask, coming off of what you were talking about with the programs you use, is you made a comment on this one disc about how there's a lot of detail in the lines and stuff. What do you have to worry about in your design to make sure that it ends up looking like you want on that final product, and one of those may be level of detail. But Ben, why don't you just expound on what you're talking about and show that
Right.
disc?
Okay. So line weight is important. It can only be so thin before they worry about it not showing up. So on this disc, you can see the line weight, especially in the honeycombs. I don't know if it's going to focus that good.
Mm-hmm.
But this is it's really good. You know, you can't only have a solid area so big before it'll, they worry about dropping out.
Right.
And you want to kind of stay away from the very center of a disc. Mike knows all about that because MVP will not print with stuff on the center of the disc at all. So you got to work your designs around that too. So right around his nose area, it's under his nose, a little blank spot. So you got to learn these things.
So expanding on that, what's the reason? Just for those of us that don't know.
There's sometimes they come to a little point and stuff, and it's not that easy to.
That's right.
It could fall out. They want them to be perfect.
Exactly.
They want everything to come out exactly the same and perfect. And I'll be honest, like I think MVP does the best job of all the stuff that I've done. And they do multiple color stamps, like so you're getting multiple. Like that was just one color, and then MVP start pushing it. I mean, Mike gets to do it all the time. It's a lot of fun. But this one is basically this is a 3-color stamp. This is for mint disc. But it's black, and then the red layer, and then the silver layer. They're all different colors, and it just gives you a little more option, to add some more depth to your stamps and just some more interesting.
Oh, that's I really like that reflected alpha, the mirrored reflected image.
It's fantastic. And whenever they print stuff, they're great at contrasting colors with the disc. A lot of times, and I understand, you're just running these tournament discs, and sometimes it's like, I don't want a red stamp on a red disc. Like, it looks dumb. You know what I mean? But it seems like MVP's always taking the time to contrast the color of the plate and the stamps. I've never got a bad MVP disc. I'm just telling you. And I don't even throw them in my bag.
It's
one.
That center screw area, Keith. I mean, there are companies that can stamp over that, but I think for MVP, there's certain restrictions that they could probably slow down and get that center screw like dialed in. But as much as clients they have and the stuff they have to run internally, there might be So
I imagine this process, and maybe you've actually seen it happen. I haven't, but I imagine this is as a typical printing process. The disc is coming in, it's going through something that's either lasered or press. What's the process there that's making that ink on plastic?
Oh, it's actually hot stamping foil. It's a foil attached to the top of the machine, and the machine's at a certain temperature, and it's just the pressure of the metal die plate reacting with the foil, and that adheres to the disc on the top of the disc.
So that's how all discs are printed?
Not all discs.
Or most of the custom?
Most of the hot stamps are done that way, correct. There is another process.
I'm grabbing one just because I want a thing. Hold on a second.
Sure.
He's disappearing into the black.
Because you guys know Moose down at Legacy Trails, Matt Brown, but he's got this design, and I think this was the stamp.
Oh yeah, I've seen the design for sure.
And they actually sent him the stamp, and I got one of them that went with it. So this is what we're talking about. This is what gets pressed onto. So that foil stamp is produced for as many discs as they need, right? And so it's 1 and 1, boom, boom, boom. That's
there's a process for triple stamping that I can't get into because it's proprietary, but
that's right.
There's a way to make sure those things are lined up correctly and be able to keep up that speed, so you can kind of keep the numbers up. Because you a lot of work.
Because you don't necessarily know what disc it's going on, and not every disc has a nice flat plate surface. That's why you're keeping out of the middle. So if anybody out there is looking to sketch or do a design somewhere, a nice little circle from the middle.
It's a very small area. It's not like it really. Sometimes it can be a challenge if you want this very symmetrical design, but it's part of the fun. I think you got to work around it.
Okay, so that's the center of the disc. Let's talk about the edge of the disc and how you effectively scale your design that it's ultimately going to make a good foil. Because some people maybe, I have a piece you did, Mike. I thought it looked like the Endless Summer Surfboards. It was like an alien landscape. Do you remember that disc?
Yeah.
But you sent the original piece of art along with it, which necessarily wasn't the same size and stuff. But what are you thinking when you're coming up with the design element for this space? This big of a canvas. What are the limitations? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities, Ben?
Oh, I draw. My sketches are done at first at like a 3-inch thumbnail, which is super loose, just trying to get my ideas out. You don't want to work on detail. You just want to get something approved to move on to the next step. And then I'll draw in like a 7-inch circle and try to do a much more detailed sketch. After that, sometimes I'm going to inks with them, and sometimes I'm just throwing in the sketch. And then I'll do it at 6 inches, even though some of them have to get shrunk down. They're Illustrator at that point. You can shrink them down really small and stuff. So, but I like to work at 6, like that's comfortable for me. And then a few I've gotten to do for Innova were 8-inch because they were XXL stamps, and that was like all the way out. And yeah, and at 6.5 inch, I'll push that. You could do that a lot, but a lot of them are like 5.5 inches, even 4.5. But you need to push the stamps to be as big as possible. I mean, just to show the art off. That's why people want them.
Absolutely.
They don't want a little stamp. I mean, I love the mini stamps, but that's a whole different genre. Like that's a different thing. So
like the little small dogwood crosstown, I have a couple that have just the flower on the small stem. Exactly.
Yeah. And we need more printing on the bottom of this too. Leave them blank on top, right?
Yeah.
We did. I mean, they're great. They're so swirly now. It's like sometimes it's like, hey man, if you just stick a little mini stamp on the bottom, that's cool enough for me. So they're getting ridiculously swirly. So,
Mike, some of your limitations, knowing that there's even maybe more of a limitation on a MVP disc because of the rim. Or are we talking basically the same? Does that change your element? Because, now you have a border.
No, it doesn't. I work the same as Ben, really. I mean, I use a mini marker. I mean, that's what I'm drawing in my sketchbook because I know my limits are usually about 12 centimeters to 14 centimeters. So I start thumbnailing with just, what is this, like 3 inches?
That's what the minis are best for, is to draw circles.
Plus, we don't have compasses. We just have minis.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a compass that never gets used, but I have minis right on my desk all the time. So
no, but usually, Keith, like each company has a style guide, or not a style guide, just a template that's provided by the manufacturer that tells you their limits, their minimum size difference, their max size for their line weight, and their max circumference, and also that center screw, art area. So really, any artist that's getting into it needs to download those templates for whoever they're working with and really look through this template and look through the details of minimum line weight, because it's all different. It really is.
Yeah, I think you really have to follow the rules at first until you learn how to break them, and then push the levels, and that's what I've been trying to do for the last 2 years, is push these guys to stamp something when they're like, I don't think it's going to go. And I'm like, do it. Just do it. We'll take the consequence and see what happens. Because I do a lot of stuff for my club down here. So like I can take full responsibility if they don't print right, and we'll still sell them because we'll take all the misprints. So like, it doesn't matter. And every time they've come out great. So I'm just like, you can do better. You don't need these super thick lines going through for designs, Yeah. So everybody can do it too. One thing you do have to think about is the hardness of the plastic allows for more detail.
That's true.
And I learned that from Trey Johnson over at DGU. And he was just like, listen, man, if you want a bunch of soft putters that you want to do, real detailed stamp, it's not going to work. But if you give me star, I can get you nice detail. And the Cattle Member disc, you remember those Rock 3s that came out, the goldish ones?
Yes.
Or almost like you look at the basket on that stamp, it is ridiculous detail. It's the best thing Innov has ever done from me. That was so sharp, the detail. And it's just because discs are hard. So
yeah,
so do whatever they want.
A harder plastic will allow for a more detailed stamp.
Yeah, the soft plastic, the metal will go right into it, you know what I mean? And then it could almost like bleed,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, there's also different kind of foils too. So there's certain metallics that actually stamp better than opaque oil-based.
That's really true too. I mean, when you can get some really nice metallics, they always look the best.
They really
But
do.
there's a different cost, you know, like the opaques are cheaper, or like you get these fancy different everything's with the camo and the, you know, the Wonder Bread designs, or just like all these different effects and stuff. I mean, they just cost more, so
Yeah.
they're gonna throw in some plain stuff just to keep you happy. But here's an example of one that the stamp's too small. And the reason why it's too small is because my lightning bolt is coming out, so it's changing the whole size of the stamp.
Yeah.
But these are Zeus's, and it's a King Kong versus Zeus. And we only did that because Paul Macbeth couldn't make up his mind what the name was, so it's a Kong and a Zeus. So we made these, but super swirly, like they're beautiful. So these just came out. We just got those because they opened those up to custom, and then Discraft just had to shut down custom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just stopped. We just got the notice because we do a lot of Discraft down here, but yeah, they can't keep up with the stock level.
It's tough, man.
But they were closed for like 2 months, you know, so that's
Sure.
something that everybody's been dealing with this year.
Yep.
You know, Mike, did you have to stop working, or did you have projects?
We have projects.
Yeah, I was off for 2 months. I didn't do anything for 2 months. I also went in the hospital, so like, you know, I had something else going on, but jobs did stop. It just full halt for me.
I apologize. Like my intro is pretty weak. I'm a full-time art director for MVP Disports. So once COVID happened, there was still a section of MVP that just needed to keep on moving. We need to keep the gears going. There's so much stuff that happens in the background. That's not just disc golf art. It's ads and other marketing materials that need to happen. And I was very fortunate to keep working through COVID.
I think Mike's got the dream job for a disc artist. Just get with the company, be the art. It's great. I mean, you don't think so?
No, it's been a wild ride. I mean, I got.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like,
I'd love to be able to stay home and work.
You
start
back in like 2014 as like a freelancer getting a gig for an artist series, and that leads to contract work, which then leads to a full-time position. Then, you know, I was appointed art director. It blows my mind.
I think
it really does.
It's really interesting. Is Mike and I like we kind of both started at the same time.
Yeah.
And then in 2016 we both got the same break from USDGC.
Yeah. Yes.
It was a contest, and Mike and I both got picked. It's hilarious. It was really similar, and we didn't know each other, by the way. We didn't met yet. And then I started doing work for Innova. That was my first real work. But I think, you know, the first break I got was I did the 2014 PDGA Birdie disc.
Oh, cool.
That design, that was a contest.
The PDGA Birdie Club.
The Birdie Club.
Okay,
disc.
so
I never won the Ace one. I only got the Birdie. I was like, man, I tried for a couple years to get the Ace and the Birdie. I wanted to do them both, but I got the Birdie one, and that was great because that was a free PDGA membership for the year. You know, I had a Birdie Club membership for a year, so it got me out there. But then Les White saw my work on Facebook and shouted me out in one of his articles, that article they did on All Things Disc Golf or whatever, and shouted my name out. And then I started getting calls. But it wasn't until JPO gave me opportunity to do some really cool stuff that I really started to get some notice, because I got to do the cattle logo, and then I got to redo it. So, and then this, you know, that Diavolo logo is my favorite thing I've done for cattle. So, which hopefully it'll be everywhere soon.
Exactly. And I really like that, you know, Jay and everybody here in Southern North Carolina, and this is going to obviously be posted first on the cattle page, gives a lot of shout out to artists, you know, and the disc artist. And I think that's something, you know, pretty special that gets overlooked some places where, you know, you don't necessarily give credit for who the design's by. So speaking about that design element, you two have some similarities in your art style. You both like some mythological, creature-based stuff. I know is kind of that comic-y, I'm not saying superhero look, but that more of a mega, you know, Godzilla's, octopus monsters. What other elements do you really like to see on a disc, Mike? I know you've done the MVPs that are very technical and look very scientific, but some of the more imaginative ones that have been out there.
How about this one, Mike? This
Nice
is one of
watch.
Mike's. This is Mike's. This is one of my favorites.
Dude, I've got this I wouldn't call it a crutch, but I love the, you know, small man versus a big, like, I know it's very comic, like, but like I did the same stuff in concept art. You know what I mean? I'm drawing for Fallen Earth. It's like you're drawing these giant beasts that you're battling, and it's always that monolith sort of, you know, epic. I hate to use that word, but I mean,
But
that
then
just
obviously,
translates so well into,
like that
yeah.
that stamp that Ben just showed that you did, you know, the scale of it obviously also comes across because you're scaling it down to a small basket. You know, that perspective is really hard to bring out in a 2D for a lot of people, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, man.
Ben,
what else are you kind of inspired by?
I mean, comic books definitely for me. That's how they always just referred to me when I was doing Innova stuff, as my comic book style, because I was always trying to draw big characters. So, like, I did that XXL Valkyrie in 2000. It was right after USDGC, so it's still 2016. And it was the Valkyrie that was just kind of flying one way, and she had her sword. Where is it? It's somewhere. I have it somewhere.
Now, did you do that destroyer, that big sort of transformer robot destroyer?
No, I don't draw robots very well.
But I
don't use rulers.
I remember that.
No,
stamp.
that was probably less. When they did the biggest one, that big XXL one, that was less. That was probably the last one they did with a huge destroyer guy on it. Now it's like Philo's got a robot guy. They did a new one for Ricky, you know, like, so there's a lot of versions of those mech destroyers. But no, I did XXL Orc for him, and I did the Valkyrie, and then I started doing more USDGC stuff, and that was, I think 2017 is probably my best Innova disc, with the eagle holding the two flags. I think that's probably the best thing I did for Innova. But they kept pushing me. I'll give them that. I mean, I got better working for them. But I was trying to work for everybody, and I wanted to have discs from every company, because as it was a good way to get discs, you know, like I want to try them. And I
mean,
the company I get the least amount of work from is MVP. They got
each fan base has their collectors, so it's you know.
Oh, whenever I do anything Axiom or MVP, I can sell my disc in 10 minutes on they got the most rabid fans for plastic. So, but whenever I work with mint disc, it's the same process. I can get triple foils and stuff, and people go crazy. So
cool.
Yeah, I love it.
So one of the things that, Ben, I know that you mentioned when we were talking earlier, and Mike, I know, is those using the discs as a single piece of art, not making a stamp, right, for a production run, but doing a one-off, Sharpie piece of art, and using that platform for that, whether it's Inktober, Mike's done some, Ben, you were talking about every time you go down to your local weekly or whatever, somebody wants you to Sharpie a disc. What's the process there? Are you always looking for a blank canvas? Is it that acetone, get this other stamp off? What's the idea there? What are you looking for? You talked about the stamping hard for a production stamp, but are you looking for that same type of disc when you do a Sharpie piece? What are some of the limitations and stuff there?
What are you doing, Mike?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
I like to start with a blank without it being stamped. I'll let just a blank disc without that sort of ghost stamping from a stock stamp. So if I can get a blank disc, I mean, it's really me. It's the same way as I design a stamp. I'm sketching in my sketchbook. I wish I could just be like awesome Mickey Mouse and just start drawing on plastic, but like that stuff's permanent, man. Like there's like a hesitation with me. Like I'm such a planner, like just from being from concept art, that I've got to get those roughs out on paper first. And if anybody followed me doing the Inktober stuff, like that's what I did. I mean, I was straight from sketchbook, made sure that's what I was going to do, and then from there was just very, very carefully, taking that drawing and putting it onto a blank disc. I mean, that's how I did it. And it's kind of nice to kind of live with, work without those limitations of a max diameter and max foil. I mean, I was able to just go to town and do sort of full color stuff with the limitation of Sharpie ink. But it was pretty awesome. I'll also work with alcohol. You can just put alcohol with Sharpie ink and actually make some washes with it. And there's a lot of really cool things I learned to do in the ink over stuff.
Yeah, so Mike's doing stuff where like you don't want to throw it after it's too good, right?
No,
it's just a hanger at that point, right?
Yeah,
Do you have your Steve?
They're in the other room. Like, but they're
he's not
actually
gonna throw it.
Just like yours. They're framed. I have them framed back
That's
there.
exactly it.
The eyeball. I have the eyeball one. I have that endless summer. That alien landscape one.
I appreciate that.
So here's one that I've done. This is Mars Attacks.
Mm-hmm.
This is on a roach, jawbreaker roach, that was wiped. Somebody was like, but they bent it, right? Like they threw it in a tree and it got a dent in it. I was like, can I just have that? And I was like, yeah. And I just put this on it. And I'm going to sell it eventually, but it's got to be to the right person.
So when you say you wipe it, you're taking
acetone,
take it off.
Please wear gloves if you're going to do this. It's very bad for your skin. It's very toxic.
Ventilated area.
Yes.
Yeah, wear a mask. I mean, hey, you got them now. So make sure you do all that stuff. That stuff's really dangerous. And I've wiped almost all the stamps I've Sharpied on. I hardly ever get blanks. And nobody's wiping them for you, so that's for sure. But this one I did today, and this is the hardest style for me. This is a Detroit Lions old school logo. And you only get one shot at it. And,
exactly.
But you know what? 90% of people that I do stuff for, they're so happy that you did them a custom stamp that it's not perfect at all. It's not even close to perfect.
Yeah.
But for them, it's like exactly what they're looking for. It's like, I just want this logo, and so Mike knows. He does Patriots logos all the time.
Dude. I tried to do a Wu-Tang symbol for a guy
man.
at Jarpalooza a couple years ago, and I felt so bad. I screwed it up. He's like, "It's okay, man." I'm like, "Oh, like
I experimented with all this, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Drew my own. They're absolutely terrible, but I throw them. I know what they do, so they stay in my bag. I just need to start wiping them and just get a number 1, number 2, number 3, just so I know what they do. Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
So this is a Z-Flex Zone, a clear one I got, and it's got a Ghost stamp on it, but it's Space Ghost. So I have 2 Space Ghost discs. I love Space Ghost. You can't get it. Space Ghost on anything. It's so annoying. I wish they would just bring them back for real.
Yeah, I was.
And can we get a Space Ghost movie for crying out loud? Well,
we were actually going to have George Lowe did the voice for Space Ghost Coast to Coast at my most recent con, but because obviously the shutdown or isolation, we weren't able to have it. But earlier you talked about softer plastics. The stamp if you're wiping a disc and you want to get as much of the ghost away, probably the science tells me the harder plastics are going to be able to get rid of more of that ghost stamp.
There's some plastics where if it's a solid black stamp or a blue stamp, sometimes even they don't want to come off. Like if you get some KC plastic and it's a black stamp, I'm telling them, go find me another disc because I'm just going to smear it all over the place. It's just in there so hard, and it just doesn't want to come out. And then I start putting acetone on. I'm just smudging your disc into a gray disc now, and it's horrible. Metallic stamps are the best ones to wipe.
But then when you said that as soon as you put a Sharpie to the disc is starting to suck that in, right? So like you said, you got one shot.
It's easy to. This is very soft. This one,
mm-hmm.
But I got great detail out of this. I mean, it's a super soft disc. They're fine to draw on.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, I use a very light lavender Sharpie
mm-hmm.
to do my outlining before I go in there with the black's always last, obviously, but because it'll smudge everything. But I do like a ghost drawing on a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
Just because I'm terrified I'm going to screw it up, and it's not.
It's the worst,
you get really one shot at it. If you do it quick, you can acetone it again and get it off. But
yeah, Keith, if you look at that one I did that you bought,
mm-hmm.
I think I did a yellow outline. It's the same thing, right? You're trying to get loose forms, get them in the air, just like that's what you do in art. You block.
Obviously, you want a white one. You want a white disc so the colors pop. You did a lot of white ones, right, Mike, for your Inktober stuff? A lot of those were white. Yeah, the colors were just amazing.
I'm very lucky.
Sharpies have a million colors now too.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that MVP has they sell blanks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could buy blanks from MVP.
Well, it used to be you could never get a blank from anybody, and now you can get blanks. So it's not so taboo to get a blank.
Does Innova and Discraft do that? Do they sell blanks?
You can get them on Infinite.
Cool.
You can get Novas right now. I know that from Innova, but for the other companies, there's always something up there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Or there's enough stuff now that just is bottom stamped, or
that's exactly it.
That you can.
I did a lot of Tour Series discs from Discraft last year because everybody had a bottom stamp. So they're like, "Can you draw something on the top?" And yeah, it was fun. I was like, "Those were clean," but yeah, we need more of that. We need more bottom stamps.
So one thing I always like when I talk to people, even if they know each other, is find things that I find some connection between the two of them. So this is my connection between the two of you, and it's hockey. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so I'm going to tell. I mean, Ben probably already knows about Mike's work with the Hurricanes and that artist series.
They're hanging on the wall.
What's the official name for that?
What's that?
The thing with the Carolina Hurricanes, you had
the homegrown series.
Yes.
Yep. And the homegrown series essentially bring in local artists, local breweries, local food, local music. It's super awesome. I really hope they keep on doing that. I know this year was a wash, but it's a super cool program.
Right, but you did it for at least the 2 years before that, right? Before this season,
2 years.
I remember having the prints and seeing you at RBC Center or whatever it's called over there where they play.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call things anymore. I just know where it is. and Ben worked as were you the lacrosse manager at the 5 hole?
5 hole sports. Yeah, I worked there. Started as a lacrosse manager, and then when I left, Timmy and I were basically running the store together. Or my friend Tim Clive, but Timmy had all the hockey experience, and I learned it when I was there. By the time I was done, I was sharpening skates. But I love hockey, man. I just never played.
So, Mike, he's referring to Tim Clive, and Tim Clive and I worked at Boy Scout camp together in upstate New York in '87. And then obviously Facebook, you're kind of like, oh, how do you know Ben? He's like, oh, Ben used to work here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh.
And I got Tim to start playing disc golf.
Yep.
We used to go to Kentwood because we worked around the corner, basically. So it was perfect.
And he's not that far from Cedar Hills now where he's working. I mean, he's living in Clayton, but he's working at that Lydell.
He's living in Clayton now? Okay.
Yeah, they moved.
Well, he's got a course by his house.
Yep, they were right across the street, right across the river from me here, Knightdale, over to where he was off Rogers Lane. And I actually did his wedding. I was the officiant in his wedding a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite for me, guys. Like, I love hockey now, but I didn't really know much about it until I got the gig at the Hurricanes, to be honest with you. So I've been learning over the last 4 or 5 years. I love it, man. I love watching hockey. So
hockey's the greatest in-person sport you can do. I went to my first hockey game when I was 2 years old in Philadelphia. I've been a Flyers fan my whole life. And it's unbelievable. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was in the Spectrum in Philadelphia as a teenager and stuff, and just Ranger games. They played the Rangers, and it was just brawls in the stands. It was so much fun. It was great. I loved it. And then some playoff runs and stuff. It's just amazing. It's not like other sports because you're on top of it,
right?
And it's just so fast, but you can follow it when you're there. Much easier than television, obviously. But yeah, it's one of the greatest sports there is. So yeah, I miss it. I have no hockey in South Carolina, but I am moving. So when I finally move.
Where are you headed?
I'm heading to Texas. I found my brother. I have an older brother. I got 3 nephews. They're and his wife are in Dallas area now. They're in South Lake, and I'm trying to get to the Arlington area. It's basically the same income level here for housing and stuff, so it's not bad. And I can work wherever I want to work. So I'd rather be near those kids.
Awesome?
That's the best part, man.
Freelance. You can.
There's no decision that part. Just COVID really just put a hold on it. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it'd be gone by now this year, and it looks like it'll be more like end of the year, maybe by December. But It's not bad moving to Texas in the winter because it's 100 degrees there too. So it's not that much fun to move.
So are there, do either of you have any, upcoming projects you want to talk about? Any releases? Are you working with anybody else in particular? Or do you have a dream piece of art that you want to see on a disc, that you could name the disc, what it would do, what its flight characteristics would be? If you could have your perfect canvas and name, have you thought
Keith,
about
that would have been a great question to give me ahead of time.
Right?
I just
I
thought
would have loved
about
that
it.
one.
I don't know,
It's like
man.
the best question, and I got no time to think about it.
Ben's really
yeah,
good.
well,
so,
I mean,
yeah.
you got a project you can do them now, Mike? You got something?
I mean,
I got some in the works. I got something coming, but I can't talk about it. A lot of the stuff I do is covered under NDA, and I can't really talk.
Well, we can fill Keith in that something we haven't talked about. We on Facebook, there's a Facebook page that's private. It's private. It's for artists, and we get to see each other's work before the public gets to see it. And guys will put it up for critique or just to show it off. And it's a very great community of guys helping each other. I love it. I got friends on there because of that. And then I finally got to meet some of them. And, we all have the same kind of backgrounds and stuff. So, it's very helpful. And it's guys all over the country, which is great. So, that's the cool thing about seeing art ahead of time. But I try to keep some stuff off so it's surprises once in a while. I got a new project coming out, and hopefully it's very soon. Because they're new putters, and I want them to putt with. So I'm like, hurry up, man.
So you're rushing you're rushing your part so you can get it produced, so you can get it in your hands, so you can play with it on the course.
Listen, that job took a little extra time because we changed it halfway through, but it has it's a 2-color stamp. So we did 3 different backgrounds on. So there'll be 3 different options for the background of the image, and it's called a bullet. It's from Mint Disc, and it's more of their straight glidey putter, is what I'm being told. So I'm guessing Flight's more like a deputy because their first putter was definitely more stable. So, and that's what I want to putt with. And I got some coming, so I'm ready, But they're gonna be cool. They're a nice option, and there's a hard and there's like a medium and a soft too. So I like when you have options for that kind of stuff. But that's what I got going. Other than that.
So, Mike, you want another crack at a Wu-Tang disc?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you got commissioned for a whole series and you had the ODB, the Method Man, the Red Man, just a series.
Have you ever tried drawing a Wu-Tang Clan symbol?
Yes, I have.
It is hard.
I am not good at it.
It looks so simple, but it's so hard. But I don't know.
Mike, we got a kid down here where if you overlap his putters, it makes the Wu-Tang symbol.
Oh, that's cool.
He's got a set. It's Wu and Tang. And you overlap them. It's pretty cool.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They were dyed, though. They weren't drawn. That's cheating. They had stencil.
Yeah. So if anybody is interested in disc art, both Mike and Ben are on Facebook. They're pretty easy to find. I know they're both members of the Cattle Nation. So you could just, if you're in that group, you can find it there. You can reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with them. Guys, thank you so much. I just wanted to get something together where we could just, start thinking about some of the stuff coming out of the pandemic, checking in with you guys since I haven't been able to see you out on a course or anything lately. Thanks for giving us details on what's coming up, and stay safe and get out and throw.
Thanks, Keith.
Absolutely. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, guys. Look forward to talking to you soon.
See you.